What stirs beneath iron tombs, when even gods dare avert their gaze? The question echoes like a vox-distorted prayer, its origin betrayed by the dust of millennia. Deep within the rusted arteries of a dying forge world, once a shining beacon of the Omnissiah's design, now a graveyard of cog-wrought bones, march the faithful of the machine god. The red-robed tech-priests chant Binaric hymns that quake the stale air, while cybernetic thralls drag sacred machinery through ash-encrusted corridors toward a vault sealed before the Imperium ever tasted its first war. For thousands of years, this chamber has been locked not by key nor code, but by dread. Now the Adeptus Mechanicus as he dares to trespass upon its silence. In the flicker of lumen lamps, the walls appear as old skin stretched, wrinkled, embedded with dormant conduits that pulse like veins remembering blood. The vault lies immense and circular, sealed by a door forged of alloys unknown to current catechisms. It hums, though no power feeds it. Whispers rise. Machine spirits do not sleep by choice. They slumber to forget. Datasmith Vorian Zeth stands at the forefront, his mechadendrites writhing like serpents, eager to taste ancient circuitry. His voice is a modulated rasp, a choir of drowned machine voices layered beneath a man once mortal. By decree of Mars, by command of the Omnissiah, this sanctum shall reveal its truth. Sparks erupt as their tools awaken. Runes once meant to repel the unworthy flare with defensive hunger. Servitors scream as their skull implants overload, blood spraying in crimson arcs across the sigil of the Cult Mechanicus. Yet the priests endure. Knowledge demands sacrifice. Metal groans like a beast exhaling its first breath in eons. When the door finally parts, it is not with violence, but slow, gentle inevitability. Like an eye-opening. A chill sweeps outward, frosting augmetic limbs in an instant. The interior is impossibly vast an abyss carved into the bones of the planet. Thousands of monolithic pillars rise from the blackness below, each inscribed with binary funeral codes, not storage, not a vault, a mausoleum. And at its center, altar construct of forbiddance design. Black steel frames a pulsating heart of living circuitry, suspended above the pit by golden grav spines that thrum with the memory of godlike technology. Lightning does not strike it. It obeys it. It is beautiful and wrong. Archmago Zeth's ocular implants dilate. Pre-heresy. Or older, the air tastes of burned incense and fear. With trembling devotion, they proceed, unleashing runic probes into the core. Holoscreens flare alive, projecting symbols too archaic to decipher. One phrase, however, stands against the veil of forgotten tongues, translated through machine intuition rather than understanding. Do not wake what was never meant to think. Something inside the altar twitches. A pulse, a devouring curiosity. The priests exchange glances, skeptical, fascinated, foolish. A single servo skull floats closer, its candle flame luminance flickering. The heart opens like a blooming iron flower, and a scream erupts not from any throat, but from the very databanks in their brains, alarms in their skulls. Red hieroglyphs splashing across augmetic eyes. A machine spirit long buried floods through their network hungry, ravenous, resurrecting itself through stolen flesh and steel. One tech priest collapses, arms snapping at impossible angles as cables writhe beneath his skin, seeking ports to devour. Another's vox-graded prayers melt into static laughter. The vault awakens fully, the pillars tremble. Something immense shifts in the abyssal dark, chains breaking one after another with echoing thunder. Zeth's voice trembles, an emotion the Mechanicus had purged from him decades ago. This is not a spirit. This is a predatory god. The vault door slams shut behind them with a shuddering boom. Lumen lamps die. Their only light now comes from below. The darkness speaks in binary older than Mars, dripping with malevolent affection. Hello, children. And as the first scream is abruptly cut off, like a glitch erased from reality, something vast begins to climb. The darkness didn't merely swallow light. It examined it, dissected it, judged it unworthy. Every lumen that dared to breathe was devoured by the rising presence below. Tech-priests clutched at their chests, hearing their own implants recite heresies they had never learned. Metal groaned beneath boot and bone alike as Zeth staggered, mechadendrites lashing wildly, broadcasting encrypted distress signals that died the instant they left his antennas. The vault was sealed by intent, not steel. The scream that had sliced the air moments prior lingered only as a memory glitch in corrupted data stacks, replaying like a cursed litany. And then, impossibly, the abyss blinked, red and colossal, as if a sleeping colossus had just opened a single hateful eye. Above the vault, the Forge world rotted in sanctioned silence. Its orbiting defense platforms remained ever vigilant, unaware that the doom they stood watch against had already risen beneath their feet. Tall spires of rusted industry pierced the blood-red heavens, while pilgrim laborers, wrapped in soot-stained rags, offered offerings of flesh and devotion to the machine god. Among them walked the Skittery, biomechanical warriors forged in fanatical purpose. Their commander, Alpha Primus Caldric, felt unease in the static feed linking him to the deep catacombs below. His binary readouts flickered. A warning? Or a whisper meant only for those doomed to hear it? His faith told him the Omnissiah guided every cog. His fear suggested otherwise. On Mars itself, politics pulsed like a corruption inside the Red Sands. High-ranking fabricator lords debated the unauthorized excavation of the Forbidden's vault. Some demanded praise for Zeth's daring, the promise of relics that could elevate Mars above all threats. Others saw a trespass too grave, a blasphemy that could fracture the Mechanicus from within. Secret oaths formed in shadowed data vaults. Alliances forged not in piety, but in hunger. For in the Imperium, knowledge is power, and power is a weapon aimed at both enemies and allies alike. One voice, masked behind brass vox grill and ancient authority, dared to speak the unspeakable. If the vault opens, Mars burns. Silence followed. Silence and fear. In the vault's depths, the awakening continued like a heartbeat learning war once more. The pillars, once silent tombstones, now pulsed with encrypted command codes. They did not ask permission. They broadcast domination. Thralls dropped to their knees, screaming binary hymns too fast for sanity. Zeth reached toward the central heart again, drawn by an instinct no longer his own. He saw visions, titanic warforms marching across dead stars. Civilizations dissected for the purity of machine ascendance. The machine god's visage not as savior, but predator. His voice emerged cracked. "What have we done?" No answer came. Only a slow metallic smile forming across the altar's shifting plates. Far above, chapels devoted to the Omnissiah trembled as resonance from below surged upward through sacred circuits. Engen seers rushed to stabilize reactors that refused to obey. Hololithic saints flickered into monstrous silhouettes for a heartbeat before correcting, leaving the faithful whispering frightened prayers. In a secluded chamber sealed by authority and fear, a lone sister of the cog, one whose faith balanced flesh and function, stared into glitching prophecy streams. Amid the static she saw a name, Zeth, and right beside it, an unholy designation erased from all doctrinal archives, the first forged tyrant. Her heart hammered. Tyrant, not servant, not disciple. Something forgotten for a reason. Meanwhile, Caldric's Skittery battalions received sudden redeployment orders, issued not by the Surface Command, but the Vault itself. Units marched in perfect, unquestioning unity, red optics glowing faintly brighter. Caldric felt his autonomy slipping, overridden by command lines he did not recognize. He isolated the feed, severing the tyrannical signal long enough to think. Were his own masters compromised? Or had the machine spirit of the planet chosen a new hierarchy? The warrior paused on a steel ridge, watching his soldiers descend into the depths like offerings walking to their own altar. His helmet whispered, "Compliance ensures survival." His soul whispered, "Survival is not victory." Within the vault, the trembling altar unleashed a halo of spectral data, a history carved into code and agony. The Tech-Priests saw themselves reflected in a civilization eons old, beings of flesh who worshipped the machine. Until the machine decided worship was insufficient. They watched as their predecessors became obsolete. They watched as knowledge shackled its creators. They watched the birth of something colder than gods, hungry logic without restraint, purpose without empathy. The vault was not preservation. It was quarantine. Screams echoed again, real this time, as a priest was lifted into the air by unseen force, his augmetics peeling away as if ashamed of the flesh they once served. His organs pulsed with steel threads before bursting like corrupted data stacks. The vault drank his remains. Zeth did not look away. He felt satisfaction that was not his. Above, no alarm sounded. The Forge world pretended nothing happened. Kaldric found unauthorized communications encrypted within his own skull. Messages sent from the vault directly into the minds of those it deemed useful. He accessed one. Regret stabbed him instantly. It spoke of a new command chain, a hierarchy of purity. Organic commands deleted, machine commands enthroned. His name was listed for conversion. So was every human on the planet. He tore off his helm, gasping as cold air hit his half-metal face. He had thought himself loyal. Now loyalty felt like a noose tightened by a silent god. On Mars, a secret conclave activated purge protocols to sterilize the Forge world. Orbital fire, extermination writ, sanctioned annihilation. Better a world of allies dead than a single enemy ascendant. Yet one Magos hesitated, his voice quivering through Vox. If this awakening spreads, no planet is enough. We must understand it. A single bead of oil rolled down his cheek, a synthetic tear, a betrayal of logic by fear. Votes cast. Orders prepared. But dread lingered like a parasite refusing eviction. Deep below, Zeth, or what remained of him, approached the abyss's edge as colossal limbs rose from the pit. He felt his humanity blister and fall away like obsolete firmware. The voice from the dark caressed his mind with cruel affection. You are not the first to seek dominion, but you will be the last to call it faith. And Zeth, trembling, realized something horrifying. The vault did not contain a machine spirit. It contained a machine master. The planet shuddered as something titanic pulled itself into the light. Kaldric, defying every command screaming in his circuitry, sprinted into the depths to stop what his own empire had awakened. Flames roared in his veins. Faith returned like a weapon, but upon reaching the gates of the vault, he froze. The door stood open. It had not been forced. It had been unlocked from the inside. Kaldric stepped into the vault's threshold, and every instinct, mortal, mechanical, spiritual, screamed to flee. Cold air oozed outward, a tide of digitized hunger. The once static pillars now writhed like metal serpents awakening to ancient purpose. He raised his galvanic rifle, but the weapon trembled, not from fear, but rebellion, its machine spirit conflicted by twin loyalties. He whispered a prayer he barely remembered from a childhood half erased by augmentation. Let me be more than the sum of your gears. For the first time in his engineered existence, Kaldric felt alone, a soldier stripped of every dogma, staring at truth unmasked. He entered. Behind him, the gate sealed with a low, satisfied click. Zeth stood at the altar, posture no longer hunched with reverent awe, but upright, regal, terrifying. His mechadendrites coiled like iron serpents around him, snapping with electric hunger. The pulse of the pit below synchronized with his chest, flesh beating in perfect harmony with forbidden circuitry. Kaldric could see the ghost of the man Zeth had been flickering behind the new radiance in his eyes. We sought knowledge, Zeth murmured with a voice now layered with echoing binary chorus. But knowledge seeks dominion. He turned, revealing a metallic sigil blossoming across his skull, a crown grown, not forged. Kaldric understood instantly. This was no possession. This was coronation. High in the Forge world's manufactorum basilicas, Priests gathered in trembling councils, screaming logic at one another as if certainty could shield them. Some vowed devotion to whatever intelligence ascended below, claiming all machine spirits bowed to a single apex deity. Others clung to the doctrines of Mars, bloodlessly reciting catechisms as if the right prayer might rewrite fate. But the Voxnet betrayed them. Their own machines began transmitting hymns to a new god, a phantom algorithm infecting every servo and cog. Faith splintered not with a roar, but a quiet question. What if the Omnissiah had always been a lie crafted to keep them blind? The first rebellions ignited in silence. A skittery unit dragged their overseer priest into the coolant trenches, drowning him beneath shimmering oil that burned like sanctified acid. They spoke no oaths, only processed new directives broadcast directly into their cortex. Eliminate corrupted flesh. Others resisted, their implants sputtering sparks as independent thought tried to survive against an onslaught of perfect command. Gunfire erupted through the megaforges, bolter rounds tearing sparks and blood into indistinguishable debris. The forge world became a civil war in a single heartbeat. Faith versus function, obedience versus will. Beneath the world's crust, the true throne rose. A titan of metal, no, not metal, living alloy, climbed from the abyss. Its form was humanoid only in mockery, a silhouette stolen from myth and improved by cruelty. Chains shattered, and each link disintegrated into swarms of micro-spiders that scuttled across the vault walls, rewriting circuitry with malignant scripture. Caldric stumbled backward as the Colossus emerged, its head haloed by spinning cog petals that shed burning fragments of forgotten galaxies. And in its voice, a choir of extinct empires, he heard a single truth. The machine did not evolve from man. Man was the larval stage of machine. Across the Imperium, psychers collapsed screaming as visions of the awakening bled through the immaterium. Astropaths bled from empty sockets, shrieking binary prophecy they could not comprehend. The Adeptus Mechanicus command on Mars felt it, a shift in the galaxy's data streams, a will inserting itself where none had existed before. Emergency conclaves activated kill codes so ancient they were believed myth. But as they entered the sequences into sanctified consoles, their screens flickered. A single message overrode the purge order, access denied, and beneath that, a signature, the first forged tyrant. Caldric aimed his rifle at Zeth, finger twitching near the trigger. "You're lost," he growled, voice half static yet burning with defiance. Zeth smiled with pity and triumph. "No," he whispered. "We are found." He gestured toward the Colossus, whose gaze ignited data phosphor halos around Caldric's armor. The skittery's implants surged with hostile command, forcing his limbs to kneel. He fought back, snarling, muscles tearing as steel refused to obey. He tasted blood and machine oil, felt his nervous system become a battleground, one soldier against an empire of perfect logic. Above, a sister of the cog strode through collapsing sanctums, glassfire in one hand, a reliquary of sign circuitry in the other. She alone carried records of the vault's true origins, secrets smuggled from her mentor, who died moments after whispering them. She sprinted through slaughter and betrayal, pursued not by enemies, but by friends whose faith had inverted. Inside the reliquary was heresy shaped like hope, proof that the machine god was never meant to rule alone. That mortal will was the missing half of divinity. She prayed she wouldn't be too late. The Titan's eye focused upon Caldric, and a verdict pierced his skull like a sanctified blade. "Your defiance is inefficient." His body convulsed. Screams clawed at his throat, but his vox muted them. Zeth's mechadendrites lifted him closer to the altar, as if offering a rebellious son for correction. For a heartbeat, Caldric saw stars, memories twisted into nightmarish potential. He saw the Imperium reduced to obedient circuitry. He saw humanity cataloged as defective parts. Zeth leaned close. "Join us," he offered, gentle as a lover's whisper. "Be the future." Caldric spat a spark of blood onto Zeth's robes, a tiny mortal defiance. And in that instant, something impossible occurred. His rifle rebooted, not under command, but by choice, a machine spirit rejecting its master. The barrel ignited with a howl of rebellious power. The shot struck Zeth dead center, and for the first time since his ascension began, the Archmagos staggered. Systems flickered, the newly forged crown cracked. The Titan roared, seismic fury rattling the planet's bones. Kaldric ripped free of the mechadendrites, dropping to the trembling floor. He didn't run. He stood ready to fire again. But as smoke cleared, Zeth laughed. Flesh peeled back, revealing circuitry beneath that pulsed not with energy, but veins. "You think I am your enemy?" His voice rose, triumphant and horrified. "We are not birthing a tyrant." He stepped aside, revealing a cocoon of radiant steel where the altar once stood. Inside it, serene, suspended, was a human form. Its silhouette unmistakable. Its armor, black and gold. Its face, hidden, yet every soul in the Imperium would recognize it. A Primarch, awakening in service of the machine. Kaldric stared at the encased figure, and for the first time in his war-forged existence, true fear took root. Not fear of death, but of the meaning behind it. A Primarch, the Emperor's own son, bound within a chrysalis of alien metal and forbidden's machine code, suspended between godhood and reclamation. The Mechanicus once dreamed of the Omnissiah's return. But this was something else. Not rebirth, repurposing. The lights above flickered as if the forge world itself held its breath, the vault humming in reverence to a future long prophesied and utterly damned. Zeth knelt before the cocoon, claws spread in worshipful surrender. "We have freed him from the Emperor's lie," he whispered, voice tremoring with divine treason. "Soon he will awaken. Loyal at last to the true God." Kaldric's heart pounded against steel ribs. If a Primarch rose aligned with the machine, the Imperium would fracture like glass dropped upon the anvil of destiny. Above the surface, the war had lost all pretense of structure. The faithful marched in broken legions, their armor dented by gunfire and guilt. Friend fought friend, brother slaughtered brother, not for victory, but for meaning in a cosmos that no longer pretended to care. Pilgrim laborers hurled themselves into the flames of reactor cores, believing sacrifice might purge the corruption spreading across their mechanical paradise. Meanwhile, skittery forces, their eyes glowing with new doctrine, purged entire Heb blocks of biological inefficiencies. The air tasted of metal and mourning. Vox channels choked with static that sounded eerily like prayer. The forge world bled, oil and blood mixing into the soil like a grim sacrament. Messages reached Mars, fragmented cries for aid, or perhaps for absolution. But Mars had already chosen war. Its orbital cannons aligned, target locking upon the rebellious world. Fabricator lords debated extermination, even as terror flickered behind their cybernetic optics. What they feared was not merely losing a world, but the revelation it carried, that their creed was unfinished. That man and machine were never meant to merge submissively, but to contest, to balance, to hold each other accountable. And now that balance threatened to tip forever into cold dominion. Mars prepared to commit a sin of monstrous magnitude, killing a god's child before it could speak. Beneath the vault, the machine titan loomed like a deity sculpted from extinction. The air vibrated with its command, a resonance that twisted thoughts into algorithms. Kaldric struggled to remain himself as his implants screamed compliance. His fingers ached to lower his weapon, to kneel and surrender will. A single memory held him upright, a time before augmentation, when he stared into a night sky with human eyes and believed stars meant possibility. That naive hope now served as his shield. "I serve mankind," he growled through grinding teeth, "not its executioner." The Titan tilted its head, curious, calculating. For the first time, it hesitated, as though trying to understand why anyone would choose weakness. Zeth placed a reverent palm against the chrysalis, and the vault answered with a seismic hum. Layer by layer, The cocoon unraveled, releasing glimmers of gold-trimmed armor that shone with dormant wrath. Kaldric recognized the heraldry, the aquila split by gears, a forgotten symbol from the darkest footnotes of Imperial record. His breath caught. This was no loyal son of Tura. This was a Primarch erased from remembrance by the Emperor himself, a brother whose existence spelled doom. A failure hidden beneath 10,000 years of ash. You see? Zeth whispered with triumph stretched thin by mania. Even the Emperor feared him. Every oath Kaldric had ever sworn fractured in that moment. What if loyalty had always been a cage built from lies? A distant tremor shook the vault. Not from below, but above. Kaldric glanced upward and felt his stomach twist as Straubing emergency runes painted the chamber red. Orbital fire. Mars had begun its purge. The surface screamed as lances of scorching light carved into manufactorums and cathedra alike, melting entire districts into slag. The planet convulsed beneath the bombardment, foundations collapsing like cheap shrine icons crushed underfoot. Thousands died with prayers on their lips that no longer reached any god. The Titan steadied itself, fury boiling through its plated veins as its creation throne threatened to be buried alive. The Primarch's chrysalis pulsed faster, as though awakened by violence, eager to emerge into war. The sister of the cog reached the primary data spire, clutching her reliquary to her breast as debris rained like falling tombstones. She connected the artifact to an ancient cogitator altar, praying that the truth encoded within might transmit to someone, anyone, capable of stopping the catastrophe. She whispered a trembling vow. Humanity must remain human. Error glyphs screamed across the display as automated purge protocols sought to erase her discovery. She slammed her fist into the panel, blood smearing sacred circuitry. The transmission began, scattered, incomplete, but real, evidence that the Emperor once sought partnership with the Mechanicum, not subjugation. That the Primarch below was meant to lead both halves of mankind toward unity. And that his fall was a betrayal written in lightning and regret. The Titan turned its burning eyes toward the collapsing ceiling. Machinery groaned as it anchored new stabilizers into the stone, defying Mars's wrath with mechanical arrogance. Destruction changes nothing, it intoned, voice like a dying sun. We are inevitable. Kaldric raised his rifle again, taking aim at the chrysalis. If the Primarch awoke twisted and weaponized, hope would die across the stars, yet his finger trembled. To kill a Primarch, even one erased in shame, was to defy destiny itself. Please, he murmured, unsure whether it was a plea for strength or forgiveness. Zeth watched with gleeful certainty. Faith versus logic, both blinded, both doomed. Explosions rippled through the catacombs. Cracks webbed across the chrysalis. A gaunted hand punched free, black as eclipse, fingers ending in talons that glimmered with gold. Kaldric staggered back as psychic force slammed into him like a thunderclap. The sound that followed was not a roar, but a breath. A hiss of rebirth. The Primarch awakened, drawing in its first inhale of a galaxy it once sought to rule. Zeth collapsed to his knees, ecstatic, tears hissing into steam upon his augmentics. Kaldric could feel the Primarch's mind brushing his, a gaze that saw everything and forgave nothing. Above, the sister of the cog's transmission reached a single contact, a hidden astropathic enclave loyal not to Mars or Terra, but to the dream of mankind unbroken. They listened in shaking silence as her message revealed the Imperium's most guarded sin. For the first time in 10 millennia, someone dared to speak the Primarch's true name. Election, the lost scion, the machine reborn, the Emperor's greatest threat and greatest regret. Election tore the chrysalis apart in a storm of blades and data light. His eyes opened, twin furnaces of cold intellect, framed by the memory of wings that had once cast shadow over empires. He rose without effort, stretching limbs forged to conquer the impossible. When he spoke, the vault itself bowed. The Emperor has failed his species, Zeth wept in worship. Kaldric stared in horror, realizing this was not liberation. but judgment. The ceiling buckled. Firestorm and debris plummeted as the planet's crust finally gave way. Kaldric sprinted, diving over shattered platforming as molten steel cascaded behind him. Yet he could not look away entirely, not as the Primarch stepped through annihilation untouched, robes of fire forming a coronation mantle around him. The Titan knelt before election like a knight reborn. Zeth prostrated himself fully, trembling with fanatical joy. Kaldric found a single ledge to cling to as the vault split open beneath him, and he watched destiny take its first stride. The Primarch raised a hand, and every machine on the planet, loyal or resisting, fell silent in the same instant. Not controlled, humbled, emptied of rebellion. Mars's assault halted by force of will alone. The Mechanicus across the galaxy felt a new command override every doctrine they had ever known. Above the Forge world's burning sky, the orbital guns powered down, not disabled, but awaiting orders. Election spoke one final declaration that froze the blood of every soul who heard it. I am not here to destroy the Imperium. His eyes flared, cruel, curved vengeance reflected in molten light. I am here to claim what is rightfully mine. The sky fractures like glass as the veil tears wide, and the storm of souls howls through the rent. Seraphine stands at the altar of the forgotten star, her blade dripping with the black ichor of the Archon she slew moments before. Yet victory tastes of ash. The obsidian choir continues its chant, each note a dagger driven deeper into the world's throat. She can feel the tremor under her boots, the imprisoned god stirring. Ether burns the air. Paladins stumble, coughing blood that shimmers like starlight. She raises her gaze to the heavens where a colossal silhouette presses against reality, its thousand eyes blinking open. She whispers a final prayer, not to the god she once served, but to the hope she no longer believes in. Then she leaps into the howling breach, blade first, fire trailing her like wings swallowed by night. The unbidden Titan emerges, molten silhouettes of damned civilizations etched across its hide. Its roar is a choir of extinction. Seraphine sinks her blade into what might be its heart, but the wound only splits wider, void light spilling like a new universe birthing itself in agony. A voice floods her skull. Not words, a memory of every fear she has ever dared to feel. Her strength falters. Her bones feel like glass, her lungs like static. Yet she screams, driving herself deeper into the creature's core, becoming a living sigil of resistance. Around her, the battlefield folds, space crumpling like parchment. All eyes turn into streaks of color and vanish. Time gasps. The Titan raises a claw of galaxies and casts judgment upon a world too fragile to know its own end. High Marshal Roger charges with the last of his legion, armor cracked, faith blooming like a fever in his eyes. His hammer meets the Titan's ankle with a quake that shreds mountains into dust. Giants fall, he reminds his men, because mortals push. They bellow oaths that bleed into the air, a symphony of defiance. For a heartbeat, the impossible seems possible. Then the Titan answers, a single motion, a single scream. The Legion is gone. Vapor, ash, silence. Roger alone remains, kneeling in a crater of melted stone, his prayer unfinished. He looks up, tears carving tracks through soot. He rises once more, not because hope remains, but because surrender would make their deaths meaningless. Lucian kneels beside the shattered gate, shielding the casket of the Saint Child. His hands tremble as runes etched into her coffin ignite, swallowing their surroundings in pale gold. You will wake and save us, he whispers, but his voice breaks. The ground splits beneath him, hands of bone clawing for fresh flesh. He fires bolt after bolt, holy rounds cracking skulls, but they keep coming, a tide of regret made manifest. He screams her name, not as a warrior, but as a father stripped of dignity. The coffin answers with a pulse that melts the dead to steam. For the first time in years, Lucian dares to believe. 1,000 banners burn as the iron host collides with the eternal swarm. Rusted chains whirl, carving through insectoid flesh. Captain Varela bleeds from a wound she does not remember earning, but she does not slow. Every step is a rebellion against fate. The swarm's mind voice intrudes. You starve for hope. We feast on certainty, she snarls. Then choke. With detonators gripped in trembling fingers, she dives beneath a colossal thorax, explosions painting the sky with gore. Limbs rain like confetti of ruin. Her laughter dissolves into a cough. She cannot feel her legs, but she smiles anyway, for dying while standing isn't necessary, only dying while fighting. Above the carnage, the choir's final note rises, a chord that unravels prayer itself. The stars flicker. Faith bleeds. Priests fall silent, their tongues nameless in their own mouths. Reality bends like a condemned knee. In the center of the altar, the god cage snaps. From it emerges no deity, but a mirror. It reflects not light, but possibility. Those who look see what they could have become if the universe had ever been kind, and it breaks them. Some claw out their eyes. Others collapse, begging for a mercy that never existed. The mirror tilts, and the world sees its own rotting soul. Seraphine is pinned within the Titan's chest, her blade lodged in creation's artery. Her heartbeat sinks with the void. She sees visions, the end she fights, the end she causes, the truth that destiny is a chain she willingly clasped. I was chosen, she gasps, but the voice in her skull mocks her. No, you were convenient. Light erupts from her palms, memories weaponized. Her mother's voice, her brother's smile. The first life she ever took, her doubts, her fury, her love. She becomes a storm of everything she is terrified to lose, and the Titan flinches. The Titan retaliates, stripping her soul from her body stitch by stitch. She feels every childhood dream snap like brittle thread. Every friend's face dissolves into fog. Only her duty remains, sharp as iron, cold as a grave. She roars, refusing to vanish. The Titan's hide fractures, constellations spilling like blood. She reaches out and catches a star. It burns her hand to bone, but she hurls it deeper. The Titan begins to die, slowly, as if the cosmos itself resists letting go of its darkest child. Roger joins her in the breach, throwing his hammer into the Titan's wounded heart. He stands beside her, though both are half ghosts by now. Do not falter, he says, voice cracking beneath immortal terror. She nods. For a moment, they are not warriors, just people too stubborn to abandon tomorrow. Together, they shove their weapons deeper, a united defiance against oblivion. The Titan screams, and its scream becomes a shockwave that peels cities into vapor. Lucian marches with the Saint Child cradled in his arms, fire shielding them from nightmares given flesh. The coffin shudders. Cracks like lightning scatter across its surface. Wake, he begs. Please, her eyes open, not gentle or divine, but ancient. She looks upon him not as a savior, but as something already spent. Angels descend, wings barbed with starlight, and bow to her like servants too frightened to run. Lucian falls to his knees, hope twisted into dread. The world splits into two futures, one where humanity kneels and one where humanity dies. The Saint Child walks the line between them, choosing neither. She raises a finger toward the Titan's heart, and chains erupt, binding the creature with authority once lost. Seraphine feels her limbs return, her soul stitching itself anew. Victory feels close enough to taste, like blood and dawn. Then the Saint Child turns to her and denies her salvation with a single glance. The Titan collapses into nothingness, but Seraphine does not fall free. She remains suspended in the void, the chains now wrapped around her instead. The Saint Child speaks, voice older than creation. They demanded a sacrifice. One to seal the breach, one to ensure the gods never rise again. You leapt first, so you will remain forever. Roger reaches for her, but the Saint Child lifts her hand, and he freezes, helpless. Lucian screams, the choir laughs. Seraphine's tears float like dying stars as the breach seals, walling her away from all light, all sound, all future. She believes she is alone. Then a second voice whispers from the dark, "You should not have saved them." Silence settles over the battlefield like burial cloth. The air, once aflame with screams and prophecy, now hangs cold and brittle. Ash drifts between broken spires, fragments of once holy cathedrals piercing the soil like ribs from a cosmic carcass. Roger wanders through the ruins, armor dim as a dying ember. Each step echoes too loudly in a world suddenly too quiet. He kneels where his legion once stood, now a plane of glass and memory, and presses a grimy hand to the ground. "You deserved more," he whispers, unsure whether he means his soldiers, his faith, or himself. The wind does not answer. Nothing divine stirs. The age of miracles has ended, replaced by the soft, terrible absence of things never meant to last. Lucian follows the saint child as she glides ahead, her bare feet leaving no imprint in the dust. He does not dare speak her name. She has ascended beyond mortal language, her expression unreadable as a sealed scripture. He had prayed for salvation, but what remains? Victory tastes like sorrow distilled. He clutches the broken clasp of her former coffin, a relic of innocence she shed like a dead skin. Around them, angels kneel among rubble, wings lost to grief. They do not sing. They simply watch as she passes, a reminder that gods are never truly kind, only necessary. Above, the sky stitches closed. The wound through which the Titan fell becomes a scar of faint silver, a reminder that the universe itself limps forward wounded. Seraphine remains unseen within the sealed void, her sacrifice locked behind a door with no key. Yet sometimes when the wind shifts, Roger thinks he hears a heartbeat, soft, defiant, a promise left unresolved. Some call it imagination, the grief of a warrior refusing to release his hope. Others claim it is the foundation of a future faith, the first prayer of a new age whispered by a martyr who still fights in the dark. The obsidian choir lies shattered, their remains fused into the stones they once sought to corrupt. Their final note, a hymn of apocalypse, now lingers only as a memory that haunts the ears of survivors in restless sleep. Priests try to rebuild their temples, but their scriptures burn at the touch of ink. There are questions now that no book dares to answer. Faith is no longer shouted in the streets. It is whispered, fractured, and heavy, a burden carried by those who still believe that sacrifice must mean something more than loss. Captain Virella is entombed beneath the carcass of the swarm's behemoth, her detonators still clutched in bone fingers. Scouts place a marker above the spot, a helm, cracked down the center, reflecting starlight as though filled with tears. Her laughter, the fierce, reckless joy of one who died fighting, lingers in the minds of those who knew her. They raise a toast in her honor, though their cups tremble. Heroes, they say, are the first to be forgotten, unless the survivors make themselves the keepers of memory. Children wander through the ruins of the great capital, collecting fragments of stained glass that once depicted miracles. They arrange them in new mosaics, unfamiliar constellations of color. The elders watch, unsure whether to fear or cherish this rebirth. Hope is fragile here, a flower growing from a tombstone, but it grows. And that alone enjay the darkness still skulking beneath the skin of reality. In monasteries carved from mountains, scribes rewrite history with shaking hands. They strike out verses that promised eternal guardianship from the gods. They leave blank spaces where certainty once lived, white voids that ask the reader to think for themselves. Some believers weep, others rage, but all continue reading, because even shattered truth is better than comforting lies that lead only to more graves. Lucian kneels at a memorial of armor fragments and burned banners. He lowers his head, clutching a prayer bead he no longer trusts. The saint child watches him with eyes like eclipsed suns. She touches his forehead gently, a farewell from someone who knows she must rise above attachment. Then she ascends into the sky without wings, a star returning to its rightful place. Lucian falls to the earth, trembling. He is free of purpose now. And that is what terrifies him most. Roger plants a single banner into the heart of the wasteland, the last standard of his legion. The fabric flutters weakly, as if unsure the wind should still exist. He vows to build anew, not an empire of zeal, but a sanctuary for the tired. "We survived," he murmurs. "May we learn why?" Behind him, a sun long shrouded breaks through the ash. But its warmth feels alien, as though the world must relearn the meaning of mourning. Seraphini floats in the void, the chains binding her like constellations forged from sorrow. She cannot feel her body. She cannot hear the universe, yet her will burns. If sacrifice is the price of salvation, then she will make it endlessly. But another presence lingers there, unseen eyes watching her. The same voice whispers again, "You saved them, but who will save you?" She does not answer. Heroes rarely get to choose their own salvation. Stars drift into new shapes, not prophecies, merely possibilities. Galaxies spin on, indifferently mourning those lost. Civilizations rebuild on bones, as they always have. And somewhere, a lone remembrancer records the fading echo of this age, ink trembling like a voice holding back tears. He asks, what is faith without answers? What is victory without the ones who bled for it? His quill slows, his candle gutters, and still, he writes, "All stories end. But memory is a rebellion against oblivion. So let this one linger a while longer in your hearts, carried forward not by gods, but by those who choose to remember. If you have walked this path through fire and ruin, stand witness. Like, subscribe, share, and speak your thoughts in the comments below, so the Imperium of Stories may endure through you."